everybody, I'm Miss Fran and welcome back to Cap at Home in Gold Detroit. Today we are going to make wire and nylon abstract sculptures. Now before I get too far along into the project, I just want to say a quick thank you so very much to the Community Education Commission of the City of Detroit and General Motors for generously sponsoring these videos. Alright, now let's see what we will need for the project. I have a block of wood, some scissors, some nylons, I have a staple gun with staples, and I have some wire hangers. I've got pliers, especially ones that are really good at cutting wire. And I have some paintbrushes, and I have some paint. For cleanup, I have this damp wash rag and 3 buckets of cool water. I also have these little dishes that I'm going to use for paint. So I'm going to start by portioning out some paint for this project. And I just got some paint on my work surface unintentionally, so I'm going to use my damp towel here to wipe that off. And I'm just going to start by portioning out the paint that I want to use for this project. I have black and white, I have yellow, blue, and red. And so with these colors, I can make just about any color I can possibly think of. Yeah, shake this one up a bit. Yep. Alright, so now that I have my paint, I'm going to set that all off to the side here, and I'm going to take my wire hangers and I'm going to sort of make some abstract shapes out of them. And you can manipulate your wire by hand or with pliers, however you want. I'm just going to unbend them a bit, and that's a pretty cool shape already. So I'm going to take my staple gun and just attach it to my block of wood. And I'm using these pliers too to help me kind of get the shapes that I need to get. And I'm also sort of thinking about how I'm attaching the wire here. It helps to have specific sort of opposite bends on the bottom of the wire hanger. And this gauge is pretty heavy duty, so kind of be aware of that as you staple everything in place. So I've got this other hanger. I'm going to untwist the shape. And just play a little bit with the bend in the wire. Maybe make a little kind of back and forth shape. I've got a little loop. I'm thinking about how I'm going to attach it to the block of wood. I like having these little sort of curls at the end here. So I'm just going to play with that a little bit. And now that it's all kind of attached, I can play with my composition of this wire form and make it into a structure that I like. So because it's abstract, I'm just kind of doing whatever is fun in the moment, and then I'm going to take my nylons here and I'm going to cut off part. And I'm going to stretch the nylon over the wire and see what kind of interesting three-dimensional shape I've come up with. And this one's pretty cool. I already like it. And I'm just going to tuck all of the wire into the nylon, and maybe I'll staple the nylon down as well in a couple of spots, just so it stays. I want the nylon to be taut so that it holds its shape while I'm painting it. And I've got a nice form here. And I can continue to play with the wire shape underneath the nylon form. And just see what kind of interesting shapes I can come up with. And there's the end of my nylon. So I'm going to tie a knot here and trim off this extra bit of fabric. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with this shape. So I'm going to take one of my paint brushes and I'm going to just maybe cover some of the nylon fabric here with some white paint. This kind of helps fill in all of the little tiny holes in the nylon. And you can choose to sort of prime your surface so that the paint is bold. But I also kind of like the color of the nylon, so I'm planning on just leaving that exposed in some spots. And I'm just going to maybe follow the shape of the wire a little bit to create these really bold three-dimensional surfaces. I really like this sort of sweeping surface. It can be helpful to mix your paint. Now I'm using acrylic paint, and that is the paint that I recommend you use for this project. It can be helpful to mix the paint with some of the water that you have on hand so that it spreads more evenly. I also really recommend that if you're working outside onto this day, which is super hot, you have some water to drink. It's very important to stay hydrated whenever you're doing pretty much anything. But especially on a really hot day, you want to have plenty of water to drink. So I'm just kind of filling in some of this surface with some white paint. And I have both white and black acrylic paint in this dish. So I'm also getting some really cool shades of gray as well. And the good thing, one of the many good things about working outside on a day like this is that the paint will dry pretty quickly. Ooh, that is a really glorious breeze. So I think I'm just going to follow this particular surface. I'm going to get some more white paint here. I'm going to follow this surface with my white paint. And let me get some more paint on the rest of this abstract sculpture. I really like this project because it can really be anything you want it to be. Sometimes it's really fun to work with non-representational art. And to experiment with having fewer constraints. Now that I have this nice old white surface, I'm going to add some color to it. So I'm kind of thinking about where I'm going to add my little pops of color. I think I'm going to add some darker tones to this portion. I'm going to follow the curvature of the wire form here. Maybe add some middle tones, some like medium grays. Kind of come in here. And I have kind of a variety of paintbrush sizes. So I think I'm going to switch paintbrushes at this point so I can get a little bit more detail. This one's like a flatter paintbrush. And I'm going to mix maybe some blue and some white here. And as I go over the different shades of gray and white, I'm getting different values of blue. So it's kind of a fun experiment to see what different shades I can come up with of this blue color. Ooh, I'm going to explore this surface right here. And I think I want that one to be really bright. So I'm going to mix some yellow into this surface. Is already super fun. I'm just adding a few coats. And I'm following this line that's sort of created by the structure of the wire underneath. And I'm also kind of mixing some water into the acrylic paint because it is drying on me a little bit. And at this point, I think I'm going to add some of this. I guess it's more of a magenta color and not a red. So I'm going to mix that in. But I can make it look red by adding some of this yellow to it. So let's see what kind of color we blend by combining these two. And it's kind of an orange at this point. But I really like the gradient that I have going here as it goes from yellow to this sort of magenta tone. And, I can mix the yellow and the magenta to get that red. So maybe I'll do that. also thinking about where I want to put this sculpture when it's finished. Thinking I'll put it in my garden. So you can see I'm already kind of coming together with a really interesting combination of abstract shape and color. But this is such a fun project because it really has so many possibilities. Let's work some glue out here. The blue is kind of being a turquoise as well, where it mixes with some of the yellow that's kind of forward in the orange shade that I created. I'm getting all these colors that I didn't even really plan on getting, but I just think they're great. So this is like a really good exercise in a few different art elements. We've got shape, we've got color, we've got line, and it only has to be what you want it to be. Okay, let's get some more blue paint. Another option that you have with this sculpture is to paint the base or the plinth, which is the wood block that I stapled the wire to. This is the base or the plinth. This is a really good segue into the purple that I have left. Kind of given up on washing my brush at this point, just because I'm kind of going from one color to the next, and I get most of the paint off on my surface. But that is one way to paint. You just like totally use all of the paint on your brush. I also really like how the knot I tied in the stocking kind of looks like a tie. So I'll paint that like the pupil of an eye. This surface here, which is very interesting. And I've got a brush loaded with some blue, and it's going to blend with the black paint, and you get a very sort of dark blue